What if picky eating isn't the problem, but the actual clue? Welcome to the Livin'Sky podcast, where we uncover the root causes behind picky eating, childhood health challenges, and everything in between. I'm Paulina Livin'Sky, but my friends call me Lena. I'm a mom, a pediatric feeding specialist, a pediatric sleep and development specialist, and a speech-language pathologist. Every week on the show, you'll hear conversations with some of the world's leading experts, along with practical tools to help you better understand your child and create a healthier, happier home. I'm so glad you're here. My guest today, Dr. Hilary Claire, is a clinical psychologist, holistic parenting mentor, specializing in nutritional and environmental medicine. She's an author, a podcast host of Wild and Well, and mom of 2 boys. Her work focuses on supporting mothers to move out of exhaustion and reclaim a thriving, healthy identity in motherhood, shaped by both professional training and lived experience. She also supports families with everyday parenting challenges, including picky eating and emotional regulation. And she is the author of 3 books, with a 4th on picky eating coming soon. Dr. Hilary, I'm so happy that you are here. Welcome to the Livin'Sky podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk to you. I know we're very aligned with a lot of our views, so I'm thrilled to be chatting with you.
Yes, me as well. I mean, I was just on your podcast a few weeks ago, which is where we met. So we were able to really talk about our beliefs, and I feel the same way. Like we really have similar approaches, which is why I wanted to bring you on, because I feel like I talk so much about child wellness, which has always been my focus, but I'm always interested in bringing on the conversation about mother wellness and family wellness in general. So I'm very excited to talk about that. Yes, because I myself, actually, when I had my son, I struggled so much with postnatal depletion. It took me years to go back to even baseline, which now looking back at it, that wasn't even the healthiest I've been. So to regain my health and to start to feel like myself again, it took a long time. So I love this topic and I wanted to talk to you about that. So if you can tell us, what is postnatal depletion?
Yeah, when I first heard the term, it resonated so deeply with me. And I think it does with so many mothers once they hear it. Yet it's a term that I think is still very new and a lot of us don't even know about. But postnatal depletion, it's an accumulation, it's a syndrome. So it's an accumulation of symptoms that it's basically that we have a deterioration of our physical health, our mental health, and symptoms of it are exhaustion, that deep, heavy exhaustion that if you've been through it, anxiety, feeling that tired but wired, feeling a really up and down mood, having low patience and being irritable and just not acting like the mom that you want to be. So it can actually look quite different for different mothers, but it's generally that sort of theme that sets in not on day 2, not 2 weeks after having a baby, but any point in that postpartum time. And postpartum can go on it's years, right? This can still affect us decades later if we don't address why we are depleted. So it's a really big thing. And I think almost the term being postnatal depletion, people think it is only, it's something that I feel tired in those first few weeks or months postpartum. That is maybe the start of it, but it's something that can affect us just forever and set us up to have real health issues down the road.
Oh, absolutely. I think I've read somewhere that it is wise for a mom to wait at least 2 years after having a baby to try for another, just so you have enough time, if you're doing the right things, to try to replenish your body and prep for another pregnancy. But it is so interesting to me, though, because there are some women who seem to have just pregnancies year after year, and they seem to be feeling healthy and doing healthy. And then others, kind of like me, where my pregnancy was super easy. I felt like, oh, this is great. I'm doing so well. I felt my best. And then I gave birth and it was just like a train hit me. It was just so severe. So it's so interesting how every woman has such a different journey here. But that postnatal depletion can be something that follows for years. You feel the repercussions of it for years in many cases.
Yeah. And I think it is so common. Like the symptoms are so common. It's basically how you would describe those for early years of motherhood for the majority of moms. So a lot of moms don't even think that there's something like going on for them or that there's ways that they can support themselves because they just see it as being like, this is just what motherhood is because this is what my friends are experiencing. This is what I'm seeing in the media. You know, being a burnt out mom or being exhausted as a mother is just the way it is how a lot of us see it. But it is a sign that we could be doing some things and we could be getting a lot of support to help us so we're not feeling this way forever. And yeah, like you said, it is ideal to space out pregnancies because it takes so much from our bodies, so much nutrients, so much energy that it's ideal to spread them out 2 years, 3 years. Like it can be great if you have more time to replenish. And if you are going to have your kids closer together, to just be really, really intentional about, like, if you even think about nutrients, where your nutrient stats are at and making sure that you're at an optimal level with sleep, you're at an optimal level, you're getting as much support. And my guess, those moms that you're talking about who have pregnancy after pregnancy, they probably went into the first pregnancy like really nutrient replete and have lots of support. And there's so many ways that we can go through pregnancy and having babies and several of them and be healthy. But it's just unfortunately, like in our society, not the norm.
No. And biologically, I feel like we're wired for it to be the norm where we have a community around us. We have the village, we have the aunts, the grandmothers, everybody kind of together, living close by and helping each other because that's how it was throughout history. But now in these modern times when moms are out in the workforce and there's so much just grinding and rushing and the kids go into daycare. It's a very different setup. So I feel like biologically for us, we're still craving that support, which, when we don't get it, that's going to further maybe delay that repletion for us.
Absolutely. Like we are not meant to do this alone. And our society values and prioritizes and celebrates people to doing things on their own and being a self-made person and successful in their own right. But nothing as humans is really meant to be done alone, especially motherhood. And I think we can get on okay in that kind of individualistic society and be doing well until we're moms. And then we really feel it. I know that was my experience and the experience of a lot of moms that I speak to. So we have to really shift that valuing of like doing it alone and being able to get that support and build up our villages because it isn't something that many of us have. So many of us don't live where we grew up. We don't have those villages. So we're suddenly raising our kids by ourselves. And it is just a recipe for depletion. Like, how can you be on a job 21st and maybe also have a career as well at the same time and be able to have the time to nourish yourself and let your body have breaks where you can truly relax? Like, it's just not feasible.
No, right. And time goes so fast. I feel like the older you get, so you're just kind of like stuck in this cycle of like constantly, I'm just serving and serving and serving as a mom. And then finding these moments of break of true rest, I think is just hard for some moms. So I see that for sure as well. So what are some signs and symptoms of a mother who is in burnout mode?
It's similar, like what I was saying before, but it's that, like, for one, I think like checking in with your intuition and thinking, okay, am I acting like the person I generally am or I would like to be? And if it's really far from that, like if you're snapping with your kid, you're being really impatient, you're just so easily frustrated and irritated, you're anxious, your mood is all over the place, you're feeling just that deep exhaustion or brain fog, or not able to do things that you used to be able to do or make decisions easily. And maybe you were able to do that before. Like these are all signs that you might be in that burnout phase. There's going to be other ones. We're all unique. But these, if any of those or a few of those are ticking boxes for somebody, it might be worth considering, okay, maybe I am in a bit of a burnout state.
These days when your child refuses everything you make and you just want them to have something nourishing, that's when I grab Signals. It's a real food meal replacement shake made with organ meats, minerals, and nutrients that support kids' biology, not just fill them up. It's rich in iron, zinc, and B vitamins. the building blocks for growth, focus, and strong immune systems. And it's great for the gut. And the best part? Nate calls it his ice cream shake. That's how delicious it is. And as a mom, it feels amazing to know he's getting what his body truly needs without the fight. You can learn more at feedyoursignals.com, and don't forget to use Lena10 at checkout for 10% off your purchase.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we know, right? When it's like time, okay, like this just feels like it's too much. And I think it's important for us to remember as moms that it's okay to ask for help, because I don't think motherhood is supposed to look like that, right? It's not, because I think when we're comparing ourselves to all these moms on Instagram or on Facebook, and we're seeing these beautiful clean homes and these put together lives, and just perfect motherhood examples, and you're like, what am I missing? Like, why is mine look like this? Like, I don't think that's the norm. I think in our society, it's unfortunately the one where you don't have that much time for yourself. So finding the moments in your day to maybe even go outside just for a few minutes and take a deep breath and just relax, whatever that looks like, whatever makes you feel better, just it's okay to prioritize those moments and sprinkle them in throughout the day whenever you can.
Yeah, I think that's so critical because, like you say, like our lives are busy and we don't just have endless support. Like we don't always have people cleaning our house every day and somebody looking after our kids and on and on. Like a lot of it falls on us. So it's those micro moments throughout our day and looking at like what we can do. So yeah, can we just step outside for a minute? Can we stop and take a breath? Whether we're feeling really heightened emotions or not, can we just practice getting a couple slow breaths in throughout our day? And can we eat food that is nourishing? Can we eat food that we're preparing for our kids? Can we eat the food that we are preparing for our children rather than just eating the crumbs afterwards? Like literally this morning, even though I work in this field, I'm so passionate about it, I did that. I was busy making food for my son, and I just ate his leftovers. So it's something that we just need to continue to practice. Like, how can I fit my own self-care into my day, into those little pockets of time that I have where I might be going to a screen? And I might be like, we do actually have micro moments where we can pause and we can go outside, we can breathe, we can take care of ourselves. We can just give ourselves space and not even do anything in those moments, just be for 30 seconds. But we fill those moments so often with checking our phone, checking our email, doing another task. So if we can just become aware during our days of these times, like how many times do I pick up my phone? Oh, why am I doing that at this moment? Maybe I could shift that and leave my phone in the other room. So when I'm boiling water for my tea, I don't check it. Like if we can just start to become aware and slip in those micro pauses throughout our day and then start to fill them with things that are actually nourishing for us, that can really make a difference because life is busy. We're not going to just get 2 hours to have a morning routine that's really nourishing every day, but we can have these moments throughout our day that is enough to take care of us.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. And I also find, and this is just my own case study, but when I don't sleep well, I find myself looking for these quick fixes of dopamine more often. So I'm constantly, without even thinking about it, like I'm just sitting here and I'm so antsy, and then I'll turn on Instagram and I'm like, wait, like how many times do I do that during the day? So I love that because I think when you're conscious and you're thinking about your own actions and your own needs, you can maybe swap that out. And instead of being here and not really getting much done, and when you can, go outside for a few minutes, right? And there is this study that was talking about what happens to our bodies when we are constantly inside, because biologically we have not evolved to be inside all the time, right? Biologically, our body still is craving to be outside majority of the day. So it's actually almost as stressful as being at war when you are inside all the day. So think about what's happening to your nervous system when it thinks you're at war. How are you supposed to come down and have these like moments of clarity and to heal, if you are struggling with postnatal depletion, if you're constantly indoors and your body is in fight or flight. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Oh, it's just not going to happen. Yeah. And especially like you're indoors and you're probably the primary caregiver to somebody who needs you, and you're probably alone. So that is just like all three of those is quite a strain to be continually in. So if you can just shift by being the primary caregiver and being outside, and even if you are still by yourself, that changes so much.
So much. So much. We crave it biologically. We need it. Our body needs it to know how to regulate itself, right? Because it gives us all the inputs we need to know, okay, is this time of the day? These are the hormones I need to be producing. These are the processes in my bodies that need to happen right now. When we're taking away that signaling from outside, things will further get distorted within our bodies. So it's just such a quick fix, even if it feels like it's such a big undertaking. How do I even get all this stuff outside? And like, what about if my baby's crying? It's going to be great for you and the baby to be outside and have that nervous system reset and a whole body reset, really.
Yeah. And it, like you say, it's great for you and your baby. Like, it's my number one parenting tip
Me
is
too.
get
Me too.
outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's for yourself and it's for them. So all those benefits that you just were talking about, that's not just for you. It's not just going to like help your nervous system and your circadian rhythms. It's going to help your child. And then when your child is more regulated and is sleeping at the times when we're meant to sleep and is energetic at the times when we are energetic as well and we're meant to be, parenting is easier, like not just in that moment when you're outside, but that comes across the whole day. So it's such a good strategy. Yeah. And getting outside doesn't have to mean like you're going to some national park and you're going for a hike or you're going camping for weeks on end. Like, great, do that if that works. But it can also just be open your door, walk outside in the morning for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Or take your kid to the park. Like it doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be really small. Even open your windows if you can fully open them so there's no like glass or plastic, so you can get that real light and fresh air. And it can be simple. Just how can you bring more nature and outdoor into your day? And it will change everything.
Yeah. And it's free, which is amazing. Yeah. It's not a biohack where you need to buy a device for $1,000. It's just free, and it's meant for us. It's here for a reason, and it's meant for us to regulate us. And I love that tip you just gave with opening the window, because I do that every morning because my son is kind of slow moving in the morning. So we have a routine now. So we'll just sit by an open window. We'll read a book together. We'll like cuddle first thing in the morning. We'll be really present with each other. And it's like one of my favorite parts of the day, just having those moments with him. So I think if it feels overwhelming to get outside, just even doing that can be very, very good for you.
Yeah.
So what are some causes and contributing factors to postnatal depletion and mom burnout?
I like to think of it in a few different categories. So there's more like the physiological and nutritional reasons. Then there's like our psychological and mindset. And then there's the practical. So under when we think like more our body and nutritional and physiological, like that's like nutrient depletion. So oftentimes we actually go into pregnancy in our modern society really depleted, or at least a low level, not optimal level of so many nutrients. And then when you think about pregnancy and birth and breastfeeding, all those take so much from us. And that's great because we're creating our little baby and we want them to have the best nutrients. But that leaves us with a deficit of energy and so many nutrients. So that's such a key part. So I really recommend that. Not that people go out and just get a ton of supplements, but it's really good to go and get blood work done and different tests done to see like where you're at any point in your life. Like even if you're not in postnatal depletion, so many of us are just walking around with low levels. So get that tested and find out like, okay, what am I low in? What could I improve on so I will have better energy and just my body will be working in a more optimal way? Sleep deprivation is huge. Like obviously being a mom, you're going to have challenges with sleep, but prioritizing it as much as you can is so key. And oftentimes, I know people hate the go to bed when your baby goes to bed, but if we do this for a short time when we first have a baby, or at any point, if you just start doing that maybe for a month or 2 or 3, you can get back into a really good routine and you can nourish yourself with that sleep. So everything else gets easier. And oftentimes when we have our kids go to sleep, and if we are feeling really like exhausted and depleted, we're not using that time really effectively. So it is actually a good time. Like if your kids go to bed, try to go to bed as close as you can to when they do to get that really key sleep. And the earlier you go to bed within reason, the better your sleep actually is. And the better it is for your body and your brain to like process and detox and do all the things that it needs to do. So that's very, very helpful. And babies often tend to sleep better in those first few hours anyway. So you can have like a less disruptive sleep. There's also like how our gut is. So do we have leaky gut or do we have gut dysbiosis? This can impact us because there's so many women who are taking supplements, they're eating amazing organic food, but maybe they've had lots of antibiotics in the past or pesticide exposure before, or so many other things that have impacted their gut. So they're not actually absorbing all those nutrients that they're taking in. So that's really, really key to look at. And postpartum, our digestion changes so much. So this is something that we can be really sensitive to at that point, even if we weren't before. So that's a huge part when we think about like the physiology. There's other things, but those are three big ones. And then when we think about like the mindset and psychological aspect, just think about how our society views mothers. Like we were talking about before, like that burnt out mom is just kind of the norm that we expect, or the selfless mother who's always there for everybody else, but never takes time for herself. So there's a lot of different stereotypes that are really unhelpful that we have probably internalized without actually consciously being aware of it or planning for it. So it's useful to look at what sort of beliefs we have. Like, do you believe that being burnt out is just normal? Do you believe that taking care of yourself is not okay because you always have to like put yourself last on the list and that's what a good mom is? Do you believe that like you can be a super mom and you're trying to be a super mom and you're trying to be across all the things all the time and that's what it means to be a good mom? And there are so many other beliefs that can be unhelpful and keep us stuck in this exhaustion and depletion and burning ourselves out. But those are three that are like general big ones in our society. Even being like a perfectionist or type A personality, those may have helped us in the past, like climb the corporate ladder, done well at university, done well in our jobs, and so many different ways, even in athletics. But as a mom, like your job is never finished at the end of the day. And you can never like attain the A plus. It's so that can lead to burnout too if we think that if we just keep pushing ourselves in that way and not prioritizing rest. So looking at that, and you can't be a perfect mom, and our kids don't need us to be perfect. So if those perfectionist tendencies are something that somebody listening is like thinking, okay, yeah, maybe that is me. Like we can't be perfect. Our kids, it would be a detriment if we were perfect for our kids. Let's just say being good and good enough is good enough. And then there's also the practical side, which is huge. Like we don't have a village. So many of us are just siloed in our houses, raising our babies by ourselves with partners who went back to work maybe immediately. Maybe we're back to work like 2 weeks after giving birth. That's really common. No family around, financial strains. I could go on and on like about the practical side of why it's so much harder. But all of these things together it's a recipe for moms to be depleted and burnt out. Like it's miraculous when you think about those moms who aren't burnt out and aren't depleted and are fully nourished. And they do exist, but they're kind of becoming the unicorns in our society. So yeah, there's so many things, even environmental toxins. Like what are we exposed to in our days and in our cleaning products, in our clothing, in our personal care products? And those things put a strain on our bodies then they can have like a multitude of effects on us, but they can deplete us further of our nutrients because our body's trying to process them out. They can cause more fatigue because it's a burden on the body and it's a stress. So many other things. But those would be some key reasons that It's really common,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
it is because I love what you described because it's a very holistic view at the life of a mother or an expecting mother because you really do need to look at it from all these angles, right? Because unfortunately, we live in a very toxic society. So we are constantly bombarded with chemicals and all these things that are naturally depleting us in many different ways, or there's some bad bacteria that gets in the gut that then unfortunately affects our health as well. So we are constantly having to go against that in most areas of the world. So that's why it is so important to think about all these areas to see like, okay, well, how am I doing with my gut health? How am I doing with this? Even before we get pregnant, so that we can not only have a healthy pregnancy and hopefully really avoid that postnatal depletion, but another thing that I'm noticing is that when the mom is not in quote unquote perfect health or a really good health before she gives birth to the baby, she passes that on to the baby, right? So whether it's the microbiome that you're passing on, whether it's just different nutrients and minerals that you have or you're lacking, even though your baby is perfect in so many ways and hopefully healthy when they're born, later on, they can actually develop a chronic disease because they are born from not kind of the perfect health condition. And that's what I found with my son because he's struggling with picky eating and some other chronic things. And initially I thought like, okay, well, he has such a great background. He was a home birth. He was so clearly a vaginal birth. And, I felt so good during pregnancy and everything was so great. But I learned later on I did not pass on a great microbiome. I did not give him all the birth microbes he needed because I myself didn't have them for various reasons, whether it was antibiotic use earlier in my life. It's been years since I've had them. But all these things, if you don't replenish, if you do not know how to rebuild, unfortunately, you're going to pass on. So this is why it's so important not only to avoid postnatal depletion and to just be healthy, it's also thinking about your children when you are giving birth.
Absolutely. And I think like through the work I've done with moms for years, we need to value ourselves and prioritize ourselves and take care of ourselves, but we often don't.
Mhm.
But if we look at it from that point of view of like, if we do this for ourselves before we get pregnant, while we're pregnant, even in postpartum, at any point of motherhood, if we change these things for our own health, that's going to have a huge impact on our child. Suddenly, we're more motivated to do it. So I think it's such an important point that you bring up that, yeah, if we do these things for ourselves, our kids benefit. And then when our kids are healthier and more vital, then parenting is easier. And then it gives us more time to take care of ourselves and take care of them better. And we can switch that cycle from being us all just being stuck in chronic health and exhaustion issues to flipping it. And yeah, if we can do that before we get pregnant, amazing. But it's never too late to change it. It's just easier to do that beforehand if we have the knowledge and the support to do so.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And unfortunately, often we'll learn out the hard way on ourselves. And that's what puts us into that mode because this is not common knowledge, unfortunately, yet. This is not the advice you get from your doctor, but as you go through it, you make these realizations and you start to connect the dots and you're like, wow, like it's amazing how we are so connected. I mean, we're clearly creating life, but it's interesting too is that even our moms, like so the grandmother's health is important and the great grandmother's health is important. And that can make you kind of go crazy, kind of like, well, I can't like that's out of my hands. But like thinking about these things so you can educate and even talk to your family and like hopefully stop the cycle of this like depletion because maybe our great grandmothers had a less toxic environment that they grew up in. Great. But whatever happened in like the 50s and 60s and 70s when antibiotics came into the picture and C-section births became more popular and formula feeding was the norm, like clearly there was a big disruption in the cycle of whatever was healthy that is now causing a lot of chronic disease in us and our kids. So having this knowledge, I think, is just crucial for the whole family.
Yeah, it is. And I think it helps to not blame ourselves. Like this is really
Yeah.
systemic. It's across so many, like this is just the norm now that we're struggling with this. So to give ourselves some compassion and we can take responsibility because we are the ones that can affect change for ourselves and our children going forward. But taking responsibility doesn't mean blaming ourselves because, a lot of this happened like before we were even born. And it's not to like blame our ancestors. They were doing the best they could. But it's just about releasing that from ourselves and just like knowing better now and getting the support that we need now so we can do better for ourselves, our kids, and future generations.
Yeah, absolutely. It is so important to have this. So I want to talk about the nervous system, right? Because clearly a lot of us, we're feeling dysregulated because of our environment for various reasons. So what are some ways that mothers can actually take care of themselves and their nervous system kind of in the moment? Do you have any great tricks or tips for resetting the nervous system when you are short on time?
Yeah, I think there's things we can do to like support ourselves more holistically and creating really healthy habits. But like in the moment, like we're all going to have those moments where we feel like we have nothing left to give or we're being really impatient or snappy. And it's helpful to have some strategies then. So just breathing can be helpful. Like sometimes if you are feeling really, really heightened and angry, to start slow breathing is maybe not that helpful, but big like exhales or big sighs or like forceful breaths out can be really helpful when you're feeling like in fight or flight. Big movement like jumping or like shaking your hands or even like shaking your head, jumping on a trampoline or just like on the spot, like whatever you can do to have like really big movement because that helps to move stress hormone through your body. That can be really helpful. Dancing, getting outside, like we've been talking about so much, especially if you can get that fresh air, sunshine, touching the ground with your bare feet or any part of your body. Cold exposure can be really good in the moment. So, I mean, you can jump in the shower if you have time and have a really cold shower, but even just like putting your face in really cold water can just almost like shock your nervous system, but in a good way to get you into more of a calmer state. Because it initially like surprises you, but then after that brings you down into a calmer state. So that can be really like quick and easy. Even smelling something strong, like if you have essential oils or biting into a lemon or something, like eating something like sour or strong tasting or smelling a lemon or other smells that you enjoy but are quite strong, like peppermint can be really great for that. Or if you're outside, like grabbing pine needles, crushing them up and smelling them, it can shift things for your nervous system. I do love if you can, like if you're not so heightened and you're needing that big exhale breath, doing slower breaths, especially like breathing in, say, for 4, holding your breath for a count of 2 or 4, and then a slow breath out. So the slower that breath out is in comparison to your breath in can really help you to kind of bring your nervous system down to a calmer state. So that can be really helpful. I'm actually doing it now as I say that, like placing my hand on my heart. This is another one that is so helpful because touch can be really like helpful for us to feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
So if we cuddle our kids, that's lovely, or get a hug from our partner. But sometimes we don't have access to that. So just putting our own hand on our heart, like I just feel that immediately when I do that, right? It just kind of helps bring you down a little bit. Singing and humming are actually great. I didn't realize this for the first couple of years of my kids' lives, but I was always singing and always humming. And it wasn't something I was doing prior to having kids. And then when I realized that this is actually really helpful for your vagus nerve and to help shift you into that safe parasympathetic nervous system state, I thought, oh, this makes so much sense because I was just always feeling like I had to be on and I had to be caring for somebody and I didn't know like what was coming next. So my nervous system was a little bit like fried and just constantly stressed. But being able to like hum and sing just like told my body like, oh, you're safe. You're able to sing and hum and actually like activates or tones that vagus nerve. So yeah, that is huge if you can do that. And a fun thing to do with your kids too. Like if,
Yes.
you can like put on music and dance or sing or whatever. All of those things are great to do in the moment. So if people are listening and thinking, okay, you just rattled off like 10,000 things, just pick one.
Yeah.
If you think I could do a big sigh, like that would feel really powerful and like really nourishing if I did that when I'm feeling really angry and about to snap at my kids, like do that. Or if you think, yeah, you know what? I have access to the outdoors really easily. I'm just going to step outside when I'm feeling like exhausted or feeling really heightened. Great. Like pick one of these things and try it out. And then start building those like little micro shifts into your day instead of picking up your phone or snapping at the kids or like eating something sugary, like, or making another cup of tea, like do something. Not that tea is bad, but if you're having endless caffeine, it can be a bit much. And try to shift to doing things that take care of you in those like 30-second moments. And it won't fix everything, but it will start to just keep your nervous system more supported throughout the day.
I love all these tips. I think they're fantastic and they don't have to feel overwhelming, right? If one of them feels overwhelming, then don't do that one. Do another one that feels achievable. And so many of these are great. And some of them also help you get into like your gamma waves of your brain. So like the humming, the singing, you're like close to like 128 hertz when you're humming. So those are the sounds that are so helpful and it's good for your microbiome. So you're not only even like resetting your nervous system, you're actually helping your body heal. This is, I think, the biggest realization for me over the years is just like how capable we are of healing ourselves with what we have around us.
Like all of those things that I suggested, I'm thinking about them, like they're all free.
They're all
like they
free.
might take 30 seconds, they might take 2 minutes, but
Yeah.
they're free. So we have access to all of those.
Yeah, absolutely. And another one I love to do for women is swaying. It's just that motion. It's so good for our biology. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Dancing too. It's fascinating how we don't dance as much anymore because then you have to plan it and go out dancing and things like that. But dancing, it is so calming for your nervous system. And it is the best form of exercise for us because it's natural movement. So there's so many benefits there too. But thank you for sharing
Yeah.
those. Those are great.
Yeah, dancing is so good and it's great for our kids too. Like just
Yeah.
maybe a week or two ago, one of my kids said to me, he said, Mom, when I'm feeling like, I can't remember the words he used, but pretty much like, Mom, when I'm feeling grumpy, can you just put on music? Because I realize that if I listen to music, like I start like feeling like different. And it like music changes us. It gets us singing. It just listening changes us. But yeah, it gets us singing. It gets us moving our body in these natural rhythmic ways. And it's so powerful for us and for our kids.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that he's so aware of that already at like a young age. It's incredible. Well, he's a very smart mom. So I wanted to touch on the vagus nerve because you talked about it briefly here. If you can just explain it, what it is and how it plays a role in our nervous system regulation and in our gut health. And I also know that it plays a role in picky eating in general. It's a very important nerve to be aware of. So if you can just talk about it a little bit and about what it is and what is its role in the body.
Yeah, it plays like quite a few roles, but it's pretty much the vagus nerve it's the largest of the cranial nerves and it goes like so far down our body. It helps us to get into that more parasympathetic nervous system state. So that's like the state where we are more relaxed. It switches on digestion because we feel safe enough to rest. We feel safe enough to eat and have an appetite. And it does even, like you were saying earlier, it does impact the gut microbiome. So our nervous system does impact our gut, whether we get stressed or whether that vagus nerve helps us to relax as well. So it is really supportive of our gut in terms of that. It even releases like helpful hormones like oxytocin and other hormones that help relax our bodies. It does work like without us being conscious, but there's so many things like all those strategies we were talking about before that actually help to tone and activate the vagus nerve as well. So it works without our control, but we also can have conscious control over like helping it do its job. So that's pretty cool because there's some parts of our body that we can't shift and then there's other things that we can. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else you'd want to know about it. Like it even can help decrease inflammation in our body. And yeah, all the things I suggested there, like the deep breathing, singing, humming,
Mhm.
all those really help the vagus nerve like be more toned. Gargling is actually another one that I didn't
What?
suggest. But yeah, gargling, it seems like a weird thing, but that does also tone the vagus nerve.
Yeah, because it attaches at the base of the tongue. That's kind of where it starts.
Hmm.
So it makes so much sense, right? When you're gargling, you're literally stimulating the beginning of the pathway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah. So, what a nice thing to do. Like when you brush your teeth and then you gargle with water, like at the beginning of the day and the end of the day. What a beautiful way to set
Yeah,
yourself up, set your nervous system up to have a good sleep and like have a good day. So, yeah, those are really helpful things to support it.
yeah,
Yeah. And yeah, it affects like the nervous system, which affects like our appetite. So, that's obviously going to affect our kids and their eating habits. But then, like I mentioned, it does affect the gut itself and the microbiome. So, and like the constriction of the gut. So, therefore, it would also be like something that impacts our kids' eating and how comfortable they are eating and what those little bugs in their body are like craving and asking them for. Yeah. Do you have anything else? You probably have other things that you would add to that in terms of picky eating with the vagus nerve.
yeah. I mean, it is the main communication pathway between the gut and the brain, right?
Hmm.
It's we I often hear it called the superhighway because it
Yeah.
sends neurotransmitters through the vagus nerve. And like you said, like they are responsible for our digestion, our appetite, our hunger cues, our satiety. I can never say that word. Satiety. So what do you call it?
So,
Signals. That's what I
yeah.
want to say. Yes, it sends. So we know when to stop eating, when we want to eat, how we feel about food. It sends like the good chemicals and the bad chemical signals as well. Like, oh, this is gross or this is great, you know? So it's constantly playing a role in
Yeah.
how it influences us. So it's definitely important to know about it and to know like what influences it and all the things you've already mentioned. I mean, they're wonderful. And I think another way you can also influence is sleep, right? And when you're not sleeping, I mean, your whole body gets dysregulated and so does the vagus nerve. So, and I know that's hard for some moms, especially new moms, because you hear about it all the time. Like, you need to be sleeping and the baby's not. That is very biologically normal, though, at the beginning of the stage when the baby wakes up and eats at a certain time of the night, how many times through the night, especially at the beginning, because that's how it stimulates your milk production and whatnot. But I think over time, when it goes on for prolonged periods of time, when they're really not getting more stretches of sleep, that's when you need to start evaluating, like, what am I doing? Am I really going outside and helping their circadian rhythm to understand it's nighttime, it's not daytime? And I think there's a lot of things we can do biologically to support that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you definitely like sleep and just like a whole healthy lifestyle is going to support our nervous system and our vagus nerve to
Mhm.
work optimally. Having those nutrients, so if we're really like depleted in a lot of nutrients, that's a strain on our nervous system too. So things aren't going to be working well. So, like the things we were talking about earlier, like humming and singing, those are great in the moment and they support it. But we do need to have those foundations of good sleep, good food, movement, time outside, so like a supportive community, all those things to give our nervous system a chance, especially as mothers, to be working as well as it can.
Definitely. So let's now chat about picky eating. I'm so excited to dive into this with you because we do have a similar approach, and I think we agree in a lot of ways on our approach and our understanding of it. So, what are some basic starting points you like to address when you have a picky eater come into your practice?
I like to, I think you have a similar way of saying this, but like picky eating isn't like it's not the problem. It's more like the symptom or like the manifestation of other issues.
Mhm.
So I think it's so important to like get parents to be aware of that there's other things that are often underlying picky eating. So a foundational piece that I always start with is safety. So nervous system safety And that also ties in the child's safety with you. So, like strengthening your connection with your child, your attachment, and always having your relationship with your child be like the foundation and what you come back to. Because sometimes we can get caught up in behavior that our kids are doing that's really stressful for us, like not eating anything we serve. And we can focus so much on the food, and the behavior can cause ruptures in our relationship with our child. And then they feel really unsafe, and it's not a nice atmosphere for them or anything, or for us even. So yeah, always having that be the foundation. Like your relationship with your child is number one. And then everything else, whether we're addressing root causes or looking at strategies to support your child with picky eating, like those come next. But in terms of like root cause things, like why kids often are picky eating, there's so many different things. I keep coming back to with moms, but with kids too, it's nutrient deficiencies. Like that's a huge one, especially zinc, but there's other ones as well that shift how kids perceive food and what they're craving, in terms of like texture and taste, their nervous system. So we were talking about before with like safety, but that plays such a key role. Gut issues. So whether they have leaky gut or gut microbiome dysbiosis, what are those bugs craving? That shifts so much. If kids have a healthy microbiome, they generally want a range of foods. But if they have dysbiosis and an overgrowth of some unhelpful bacteria, then they're probably more likely to crave the starchy foods, the sugary foods, the quick energy foods. Blood sugar regulation is a big one. If our kids' blood sugar is all over the map, they're going to be craving those quick energy foods as well to give them energy as well. So it's not, if that is an issue that your kids always want those foods, it's good to look at both those things, like what's happening in the gut as well as blood sugar. Sensory processing issues, that's like so common for kids. And I think a lot of adults too still have these issues. They've just like learned coping strategies for them, but this is a huge thing for kids, and addressing that and like figuring out like what textures they want, like how do they want their food to look, like how they feel comfortable interacting with their food. And under sensory issues is often primitive reflexes that aren't integrated. So that's a really key piece I find with picky eating. But if we don't have reflexes that are integrated, our kids may be picky eaters, but they may have attention issues, emotional regulation issues, so many different challenges, like having lack of coordination with sports, low core strength. Yeah. So I find the primitive reflexes is like a really fascinating and key part of it. But all of these things impact each other. Like sometimes it's hard to figure out, okay, what was the original cause? Because there's one is causing the other, is making the other one worse. And it's a bit of a cycle. Addressing any of these can be helpful to start working towards our kids being better behaved and also like more open to more foods.
It's very rare that I feel like it's one root cause, unless it's like something happened at the table and maybe the child got really nervous about specific food, right? And then they might need a little bit of support of getting back to eating. But although that could be also, there could be a lot of root cause there. But yeah, it's usually a mix of things, right? So, and not to overwhelm parents, but I love that you talk about the first thing, it's safety. And I usually refer to it also like as connection, because once you connect with your child and you really get on their level and you start to notice things more and you start to listen more and you start to look at these things and maybe with this like more of a detective lens of like, what is happening? Why is my child struggling in these areas right now? You're better able to actually pick up on symptoms that perhaps you didn't notice before.
Yeah. And you're more compassionate too. Like you're more gentle in your approach when you are focused on connection first.
Definitely. And I often, because we talk about picky eating on this show a lot. So I think where I want to take this conversation is to focus on the parent. How can we support ourselves as parents when we are parents of picky eaters? Because that in itself is so stressful because, I feel like as parents, one of the biggest and greatest joys is being able to care for your child and to nourish them. And when you cannot nourish your child the way you would like to, I think that can take a toll on you as a parent. And you can often blame yourself of what you're doing wrong. And sometimes, the mealtime becomes a battle and it's not the way you imagined every dinner to be. So what are some things you can suggest for parents who feel really overwhelmed with their picky eaters?
Yeah, I think to know like it is hard and it is like stressful because we want our kids to eat great food so they can develop optimally and be healthy and resilient kids. So I think just like having that compassion for yourself that you're like, this is a tricky thing to navigate is a good starting place. And then working on like how you can support yourself. So all the things that we talked about before with postnatal depletion, if we do those sort of things and we feel nourished and we feel vital, we can show up more easily for our kids in that compassionate detective way like we were talking about, rather than just be like pushing the food at them and getting really overwhelmed ourselves. So also, and what this could look like is like, think about when you go to sit down at the table. What is your energy? What is your nervous system giving off in these situations? Are you thinking, oh my gosh, my kid is like not going to eat anything I serve? Like I'm already so stressed and exhausted by it, and it hasn't even happened yet. If you sit down at the table in that state of being stressed and angry about it, your kid is going to feel that energy and that's going to impact their nervous system. And then they're going to become stressed, and therefore their interest in food, their appetite, and their digestion is going to shut down. So you're just going to create what you're worried about creating. So if you can start to work on supporting your nervous system before a meal and shifting your mindset before a meal, so it'd be a little bit more open to, well, we'll see what will happen, and reminding yourself like sitting together at the table isn't about what they eat or don't eat. It's about that connection that can help to shift things. So yeah, doing what you can beforehand and just being more aware of what you're bringing to the table with your energy can be really, really helpful. And that then impacts on like how you interact with your kid at the table and what you say to them. A friend of mine who is a dietitian, she has a strategy where she says like treat your child like a dinner party guest. So that can be a really good mindset shift to bring to the table. Like you're not going to be giving a friend a really hard time. Well, why did you only eat 1 pea? I gave you 10 peas. You're not going to talk to them like that. So you're going to ask them about their day and about their life and laugh together and maybe play a game. So if we can shift that mindset for ourselves, we're going to have a better time and our kid is as well. And the more safe they feel, the more likely they're going to try the food we serve. Not a guarantee it's going to happen on day one, but it's a step in that direction. And then also like getting clear on our own hangups around food and looking at our relationship with food. And if we can do some healing around that, that could be really, really helpful, because even if we think we're hiding it from our kids, if we have issues with food, if we are a picky eater or have like disordered eating, or just like unhelpful ways around food, our kids are they're gonna see that, and we're modeling it to them. So if we can work on anything there that we have ourselves, that is just, yeah, that can be really transformational. That's not the case for like everybody. Like some people don't have that and their kids are still picky eaters, but it's just something to look at to see, okay, like what am I bringing here? How am I impacting my child?
Oh, yeah.
Because we are modeling to them.
Yeah. And kids are the best detectives. They'll notice everything. They pick up on things. Sometimes my son asks me questions about things and I'm like, you were paying attention? Like, I can't believe it. And their memories are great. So yeah, I think this is so important. I love your answer. I couldn't agree more. And I think it's so important to really pay attention to us and focus on us and then on your child, because it's kind of like this analogy on the airplane where, if something is, the pressure drops, like, and those masks come out, you're supposed to put it on first and then help somebody else, right? And it's so true. If you're not aware of your own kind of behavior that you bring and the feelings you bring to the table and into the relationship and to connection with your child, then it's going to be really hard for you to even observe like what they're doing. And when you are in charge and you start to make these positive changes at the table, it's a ripple effect for everybody else involved and our kids as well. So don't assume that it's going to be a bad meal. Come in with an open mind. And I think our kids can surprise us. Okay, so I have one more question for you. When you zoom out and look at the whole child, what do you think matters most that we often miss?
Not to sound repetitive, but that connection piece.
Yeah.
Like it always starts there, no matter what your child is struggling with. If it's bullying at school, it's picky eating, it's tantrums, whatever, it always starts with your connection to your child, because that just makes everything easier for you and for them. And they need to have that safety and trust that you are there for them. You don't have to do it perfectly. You can make mistakes with it, but that you are there for them and they can trust what you are offering them, whether if it is a food or it is advice on something. It always comes back to that. So the more we can enjoy each other's company, the more we can show our love for them, the more we can play together and have fun together. That's the number one.
Where can people find you online?
So my website is drhilaryclaire.com, and on Instagram and Facebook, it's the same, just Dr. Hilary Claire. And the podcast that I have, which you are on, is Wild and Well. So that can be found wherever you listen to podcasts.
Oh, I love that. I can't wait. It was such a good conversation as well. And this was also, thank you so much for coming on. I love what you brought to the listeners, and I couldn't agree more with you. I love your approach. I love your style. So if there's any mom who needs the support, I couldn't recommend working with you. So enough. Like I feel like they should do it. So please go to your website, to your social media. I know you're very active on Instagram. That's how we met. So I think it's a good way to find you. And I'm going to put everything in the show notes below.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me on.
Of course. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I truly love having these conversations because every episode reminds me that when we understand our children a little better, we can parent with a little more confidence, a little more compassion, and a lot more hope. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a minute to leave a 5-star review. It only takes a moment, but it makes a huge difference in helping other parents discover our show. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, share this episode with them. You never know when it might be exactly what another family needs to hear. If you'd like to learn more about my work, grab my free resources, or explore ways we can work together, visit me at linalivin'Sky.com. Until next time, and remember, Mama, picky eating is often a symptom, not a diagnosis. Stay curious, trust your gut, and keep looking beyond the plate. I'll see you in the next episode.